My selfish father threw me out to give everything to my privileged half-brother. Now he wants my help to hide a crime, but my actions left them shocked and exposed. I'm Kyle, 18, male, the neglected son, the scapegoat, the one they blame when things go wrong. My dad, Frank, made it clear over the years that I was never his priority. That spot was reserved for my half-brother Evan, 24, male, his firstborn, and the golden child. Me? I was an afterthought. Evan is my half-brother from Dad's first marriage to a woman named Marcy. I've never met her, and from what I've heard, she wasn't exactly Mother of the Year. She left Evan when he was a baby, and Dad overcompensated by treating him like royalty. Meanwhile, I came along years later, the result of Dad's second marriage to my mom, Laura, a kind woman who unfortunately married Frank. Let's talk about Evan. He was born with a silver spoon and acted like the world owed him everything. He treated me like an inconvenience, and Dad encouraged it, calling it character building. What a joke. 6 months ago, I was preparing for my final year of high school, dreaming of college and escaping the chaos at home. Then, out of nowhere, Dad called me into the living room, grinning. "Great news," he said. "Evan and his family are moving back in." By family, he meant Evan, his wife Mia, and their toddler Ethan. Why would a grown man with a family move back home? Because Evan got fired for being irresponsible and Mia refused to work. Instead of handling their own problems, they decided to mooch off Dad. And Dad? He was thrilled. But there was a catch. I had to leave. He gave me 2 weeks to move out, threatening to call the police if I didn't comply. I was still in high school, with no means to support myself. Thankfully, my grandparents, Ruth and Henry, took me in. They were furious at Dad, but knew arguing with him was pointless. Living with them wasn't easy, but it was peaceful compared to the dysfunction at Dad's house. Meanwhile, Evan and Mia settled into my old room, turning it into a nursery. Dad spoiled them, buying expensive baby gear, something he never did for me. Aunt Janet, the family gossip, kept me updated. Evan's entitlement knew no bounds, and Dad enabled it, even asking relatives for money to support them. Then the real trouble started. Marcus, a family friend and CEO of a tech company, reached out to me. He was like a father figure, always there when Dad wasn't. He told me Evan had been stealing from his company, thousands of dollars, and Dad had vouched for him. Now, both were in deep trouble. Marcus hadn't reported them yet, out of respect for my late mom. But time was running out. Predictably, Dad and Evan showed up at Ruth and Henry's house begging for my help. They wanted me to lie to Marcus, claiming the stolen money was for my college fund. The audacity! I refused and they panicked. Dad bombarded me with calls and texts, guilt-tripping me about family loyalty. When that failed, he even harassed Ruth and Henry. But I stood my ground. Marcus finally put his foot down, warning Dad to back off or face legal consequences. Meanwhile, Evan's crimes piled up. He'd been using company funds for luxury purchases. Marcus had no choice but to file charges. I decided to expose Evan further, sending evidence of his theft to Mia and his friends. The fallout was swift. Mia left him and his social circle crumbled. Dad lost his job and reputation, while Evan faced legal consequences. In the end, I emerged stronger. With Marcus's help, I landed an internship and focused on my future. Ruth and Henry supported me unconditionally. For the first time, I felt free from Dad and Evan's toxicity. Their downfall wasn't just karma, it was justice. And for me, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I was finally in control. With Evan and Frank's world crumbling around them, I thought the worst was over. But trouble has a way of circling back, especially when it involves people who refuse to take responsibility. A few weeks after Marcus filed charges, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Frank, his voice shaky, desperate. "Kyle, please, we need to talk." I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "What now?" I asked, bracing myself for another plea or guilt trip. "Evan's in jail," Frank said, his tone hollow. "They set bail, but I don't have the money. I lost everything." For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "And?" I replied coldly. "I know I don't deserve your help," he continued, "but if you could just lend me—" I cut him off. "Number, you made your choices. You threw me out, enabled Evan's theft, and now you're facing the consequences. That's not my problem." The line went silent. Then, in a voice so quiet I barely heard it, he said, "I was wrong, Kyle. About everything. Too little, too late." I hung up, but Frank wasn't done. The next day, Aunt Janet called, her usual gossipy tone replaced with urgency. "Kyle, your father showed up at my door last night. He looked terrible. like he hadn't slept in days. He asked if I could loan him money for Evan's bail. I clenched my jaw. Let me guess, you said no. Of course, she huffed. But that's not the point. He's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. Her words stuck with me. What if Frank tried something reckless? I didn't have to wait long for an answer. 2 days later, Marcus called. Kyle, we have a problem. Your father just showed up at the office demanding to see me. Security had to escort him out, but not before he made a scene. My stomach dropped. What kind of scene? He accused me of ruining his family and threatened legal action, which is laughable given the evidence against Evan. But he's unstable. Be careful. I thanked Marcus and hung up, my mind racing. Frank had always been stubborn, but this was next-level delusion. That night, Ruth pulled me aside. Kyle, your father left another message. He said if you don't help him, he'll... She hesitated. He'll what? He'll tell everyone you were involved in Evan's theft. I laughed bitterly. That's insane. Marcus knows the truth. Ruth's frown deepened. I know, but lies can spread. And with Evan's trial coming up, the media might pick it up. She was right. The last thing I needed was my name dragged through the mud. I called Marcus again. He listened quietly, then sighed. I'll handle it. But Kyle, you might want to consider a restraining order. The idea of legally cutting ties with my own father should have hurt more, but after everything, it just felt necessary. The next morning, I woke to a notification, a social media tag. It was Evan, posting from jail. How he had access, I'll never know. The post was a rambling rant about how Marcus and I had framed him. The comments were a mix of shock and skepticism, but a few people seemed to buy it. That was it. I screenshot the post, sent it to Marcus, and started drafting a statement. If Frank and Evan wanted a war, they'd get one. But before I could post anything, Mia reached out. We hadn't spoken since she left Evan. Her message was short. Kyle, I have proof Evan lied. Meet me? We met at a quiet cafe. Mia looked exhausted but determined. She slid a USB drive across the table. Evan kept records of everything, emails, receipts, even voice memos of him and your dad planning to blame you if things went south. I stared at her. Why are you giving this to me? Her eyes welled up. Because I believed his lies for years. But after what he did to you and to me, I'm done protecting him. The drive was a gold mine. Not only did it prove Evan's theft, but it also recorded Frank admitting he knew about it all along. I handed everything over to Marcus. Within hours, Evan's bail was revoked, and Frank was arrested for conspiracy. The media had a field day. At the trial, I testified. Seeing Frank and Evan in court broken and defeated should have felt like victory. But mostly, it just felt empty. Afterward, Marcus pulled me aside. You okay? I nodded, just ready to move on. And I did. With Evan in prison and Frank facing fines and probation, the chaos finally ended. I focused on my internship, graduated high school, and got accepted to college on a scholarship. Ruth and Henry threw me a small celebration. As I blew out the candles, Ruth squeezed my shoulder. You did good, kid, maybe. But the real win wasn't their downfall. It was my freedom. For the first time, my future was mine. As for Frank, he sent one last letter, full of apologies and excuses. I didn't reply. Some bridges are better left burned. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.